the October 2nd, 2023 meeting of the Tupelo Planning Committee. At this time, please rise for the invocation given by Bentley Nolan and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Scott Davis.
Let's pray. Lord God, we come to you tonight thankful for a community that shows up. We thank you that for bringing us here safely. We ask for your wisdom as we preside over these matters, Lord. We ask that we would keep your will in sight and that your will be done here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Place the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bentley. Thank you, Scott. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones. The Tupelo Planning Committee is a volunteer group appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. We receive no compensation for this, as we do it as a community service. We spend a lot of time on our own funds studying and researching the applications and visiting the sites that are on our agenda each month. We ask that you remember that we do not take our positions on any applications lightly. Our decisions are based on facts as they are presented and with regard to the regulations set forth in the Development Code. At this time, I would like to ask the staff and committee members to introduce themselves, beginning with the staff.
Jenny Savely, City Planner.
Mark Williams, Bentley Nolan,
Lindsay Leak,
Leslie March, Patty Thompson,
Victor Fleitas,
Scott Davis.
Russ Wilson, Zoning Administrator.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the last meeting?
I move we approve.
second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. We'll open the regular session. Ms. Savely, do you have anything to report on the council actions from our last meeting?
I do not.
Any old business?
We are still in legal review on text amendment 2202, and you guys should see that at the November meeting.
Going into the new business portion of our meeting, all new applications being reviewed by Planning Committee will adhere to the following order of operations for review in session. Presentation of staff analysis, presentation of proposed activity by the applicant, open floor for public comment. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. An alarm will sound to indicate time has expired. When you stand up where you are, no podium, please direct your comments to the Planning Committee. Provide your name and residential address. Make sure Mr. Wilson has got you recorded. In the interest of time, if someone before you voices your concern, please do not repeat the same issue. We'll close the full floor for public comment, discussion by the Planning Committee, a committee vote, and then a review of next steps and an appeal process. Before we move into our first business item, I do have a prepared statement. We appreciate all of you that have shown up tonight to participate in helping make Tupelo a great place to live. We have one item on tonight's agenda. We know that your presence here with us tonight is important to you and is equally important to those that serve on this committee. With as many of you that we anticipate that want to speak, we must adhere to the 3-minute limit, and thank you in advance for your respect to this process and the respect you will show to others that want to participate in tonight's meeting. A few additional comments before we begin as it relates to Flex 2307 prevailed duplexes. Comments from the August meeting for those that are not able to attend tonight's meeting will still be taken into consideration by this committee tonight. It is also important to note that it is necessary for members of the planning department to work with developers in advance of an item that comes before this committee. It takes interaction between the developers and the city to properly address the request and to try to ensure that initiatives are properly vetted. With that said, some in the August public meeting during public comments inferred these actions by the city and this committee as that we were working in secret. That is incorrect. We request that your comments tonight pertain strictly to the merits of your thoughts on Flex 2307 Vail duplexes. With that being said, our first and only item is Flex 2307. Ms. Sabley, does the planning department have an opinion on this?
The planning department is going to defer to the planning committee on this, and in my staff analysis, I'll explain why. So this is a location in a low-density residential area that is zoned low-density residential. And on 1.4 acres, 6 duplexes, 12 dwelling units are proposed. And there are 3 distinct items required for consideration by the planning committee tonight. One being the use of duplexes. The building of any duplex in low-density residential requires flexible use approval by the planning committee, regardless of the number of duplexes. There's also a flexible variance that is requested tonight. In low-density residential, the most dense allowance of dwelling units is 1 dwelling unit per 0.33 acres. The request tonight would be to 0.12 acres, which is a 64% variance of the base zoning allowance there. In addition, you will review as a multifamily development, this requires a major site plan review for multifamily. Now, related to the conditions required by the development code, as far as the site plan goes, all of the elements of the site plan required by code are present in what has been presented to the department. Within that, the site plan also requires compatibility with the vicinity. And this is part of one of the reasons that we are deferring to planning committee for this decision, because both sides of the thought on that could be made, in that the residential area as it exists may or may not be in compatibility with the density proposed here. However, the proximity to mixed-use commercial corridor is a factor to consider given the activity and the uses permitted in the mixed-use commercial corridor. In addition, there is also a requirement that there be alignment with the comprehensive plan. Now, the comprehensive plan asks for access to housing, which can be interpreted in multiple ways related to increased density. However, we also ask for quality of life and being in compliance with the adjacent vicinity. There is also questions related to property value in this case. There is definitely an argument to be made that property value in this area is improved upon with large scopes of land that is available for residential use. There's also an argument to be made for the development of a higher density toward commercial development and the reuse of property and the sale of property values that could increase with the risk of commercial development being taken on already. So to that end, the staff asked that planning committee be diligent in reviewing this application. You've had quite an amount of time to look over. We have heard from many of the residents and they're here tonight. So we ask for a balanced meeting and adherence to the thoughts on harmony with the adjacent vicinity and the health, safety, and property value consideration of what is there and also future development.
Thank you. Would the applicant please state your name and address and present your case to the committee?
My name is Israel Foster. I live at 1401 Francis Square in Joyner in Tupelo, Mississippi. And I'm here for the variance to add more units than previously would be allowed. Without further ado, I'd like to get started. You can go to the next slide if you don't mind. My name is Israel Foster, like I just previously stated. I'm the owner of Prevail Properties and part owner of Foster Apartment Group. I'm requesting a variance to allow 6 all-brick duplexes on a 1.4 acre lot on Emble Road. To introduce myself, I was born and raised in Tupelo, graduated from TCPS in 2014, right up the road from said property. And later in 2019, I graduated from Belhaven University. After college, I worked at Foster Apartment Group and in construction. And then in July of 2022, I formed Prevail Properties. My first property under Prevail Properties is 2 duplexes at 468 Mobile Street in Tupelo, Mississippi. These are typical of all of our properties, well-built, attractive, and clean. Go to the next one. Immediately upon purchasing this property, I replaced an older fence and a portion of the siding. Both were functional, but not up to our standards. At both Prevail Properties and Foster Apartment Group, it is important to us that each property is kept in good condition and each resident feels proud to live there. Foster Apartment Group owns 4 properties with 866 units in the Winston-Salem area of North Carolina. Each of these apartment complexes are over 40 years old. As we have continued to reinvest into these properties, they are in better shape today than they were built. None are government subsidized or Section 8, and Prevail Properties will also not own any government subsidized properties. To give the committee a feel for the properties owned by Foster Apartment Group, I'll start with Lake Park Apartments. It has 210 units, and in the last 12 years we installed a new entrance, new roofs, and repaved the parking lots. Next is Fiddler's Creek Apartments. It was purchased in 2019 and has 160 units. Since the purchase, we have added a new entrance, extensive landscaping, and upgrades to the interiors as well. This is Plaza South Apartments, which has 240 units. The building in the photo is typical of the apartments that we own. Please look at the navy front doors. The original doors were white and still functional, but again, were not up to our standards and look worn. Instead of just splattering navy paint over the white doors, we installed every single door for $900 each. Go to the next one. The final property is our largest, Farmwood Apartments, with 256 units. One note on the aerial view you see on the right side, you can see a single-family home division or subdivision that is built right up against the back of our apartments. These homes are priced in the $310,000 to $400,000 range and were built in the last 5 years. It's a good indication that attractive, well-built apartments or duplexes will not lower the property values in the area. To get a better feel for my approach to rental properties, I would encourage both the members of the committee and those in the community to visit these properties online. Now to the duplexes we propose to build on Enville Road. These buildings will look exactly like the homes on the screen, but the land will be flatter. It won't be on a slope. It will also include a very extensive landscaping plan by Sloan Landscaping. In addition, oh wait, can you go back, please? As you can see, these homes will be all brick with.
Hold on, I got you.
You're good.
My apologies.
You're good. As you can see, you'll have columns on the front door on each side. Also, you'll have shutters on each side of the windows. And like I said, the landscaping will be there as well. In addition, these homes will have a paved driveway, a front yard and backyard. We will also install a privacy fence that will line each side of the property except the frontage on Enville. We are not required to build a privacy fence, but are more than happy to do this to be a good neighbor and to create a better living environment. Here you can see the layout of the buildings on the property. This is the site plan here. You can see there's a single drive entering from Enville into the middle of this property, splitting it in 2. As you can see, there will be 3 duplexes on each side facing the drive. The heavy black lines are sidewalks. One note here on our properties at Foster Apartment Group and will be for Prevail Properties. We do not allow any residents to park in grass or leave toys out or whatever it may be. We'd like to keep the front yards and the overall look of these properties clean and where the residents can be extremely proud for where they live. This final screen shows a landscaping plan which is consistent with what you would find at a better property. In conclusion, I'd like to address the concerns raised by the residents at the August meeting that these duplexes would lower the property values in the area. First, when I purchased this property, there was an old house that was falling in and had been there for many years. Next door to our property to the west is a small house with several vehicles parked in the yard, and sometimes the grass wasn't mowed every day. All the homes on Enville Road from McCullough Boulevard to TCPS are older and mostly smaller. Some are maintained in good condition, some are not. Go back, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Along the same stretch, our development will be the only one with a paved driveway. Once you pass TCPS headed west on Enville, there are newer higher priced homes and the Grand Ole Oaks apartments, which have way more units than we're trying to propose. It is my opinion that because these are well built, because the Grand Ole Oaks are well built, the houses beside it and around it, it's my opinion that the value didn't go down. Considering the age and conditions of these houses, section of the road, that's why I believe that the values will not go down on our side. As for the need for the variance in order to build all brick homes with target rents below $1,000, it is necessary to fit 12 units on this land. More important than the number of units per acre is each home will have trees, front yard, backyard, privacy fencing, full landscape plan, more surplus of parking. Finally, we believe this project will provide attractive, affordable housing in Belton and will be an asset to this community. Like our family's other properties, I am committed to owning these duplexes and keeping them well maintained for the long term. I'm a lifelong resident of Tupelo and I'm excited to build this property in this area that is important to me if given the opportunity. When it's all said and done, this project going through or not will not make or break me as an investor, but it may make or break the residents desiring affordable, fair housing options in our communities. That's why I'm here and I've worked very diligently on this design. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. From the committee, are there any questions for this applicant?
Did you look at any other areas and/or why did you select this particular piece of property, knowing it was not zoned?
Yes, ma'am, that's a great question. Really, the piece of land organically came to me. I didn't actively search it out, or it all kind of just teed up. I got a call about the property. I was interested in the property, so I bought the property. Looked to see what we could do and maybe what the city would allow, and came to the conclusion that, you know, although that it is different than the zoning and we would have to go through the committee, both committees, in my eyes it's worth it to do this. And I mean, I just believe that this isn't a cash grab. This isn't sort of like I'm not trying to take advantage of anyone. I'm not trying to overflow your guys' environment out there in Belton. If anything, I want to add to it, but I don't want to make it overbearing. And so no, to answer your question in a long way, I did not search other areas. This was just a plot of land that was brought to me, and my creative mind just went crazy.
Did you think of any other possible uses for the property?
I did. I thought about maybe some storage units, but honestly, Tupelo is overbearing with storage units. They're everywhere, and it was just enough size-wise to where I think, from initially viewing it, that we could have a good design that could house people and would have more use than just a storage unit or one house or anything like that. My whole goal with this project is just to, when I'm in a position to where I can help other people, and that's what I want to do with my life. I'm not trying to take from anybody. I'm not trying to do anything like that. That's it.
What do you deem as a competition to this project in the city today?
The only competition I can think of is down West Jackson. You have a row of duplexes, and those rents are way over $1,000. With the price points that I've looked at and where we can make this feasible, that's the whole thing behind the amount of units. That's the only way that's going to make all brick. Siding's never going to fall off of it. These things are going to last for 50 years.
Well, what does your ideal customer look like?
Ideal customer would be maybe a single mom or somebody who's struggling, who can't afford these rents that these other investors are hiking up. For one bedroom, I saw some are like $1,600 for one bedroom, and that's absolutely ridiculous. And so really I just saw a problem, and I want to help out with that problem. I think with the pricing for the quality, it will be unmatched. You will not see it anywhere in this county as far as price point.
And what is the competitive advantage for somebody to buy at that location there, or the competitive advantage for you to have this project there?
Well, it's a perfect spot. You've got a hub to Tupelo, you've got a hub to Pontotoc. I mean, I just feel like it's a great location that can house a lot of people and get them to where they need to be for work. And that way, you know, because some people are having to go all the way out into Moorville and those areas, but if they live in Tupelo, it's got to be a burden, and just look like a perfect location for a hub on both ways.
So I see from the landscaping plan, you've got trees and grass and everything, although I don't see any plantings that are in front of the units that would soften those hard lines.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your final landscaping plan, or?
No, ma'am. So, well, it is my final landscaping plan, but I think it's not, I think it's just showing, because there's a whole nother sheet that shows like all the different plants and stuff, and I believe that can't be the only landscaping. If it is, we're going to fix it for sure.
Had you considered just 4 units and have them spread out a little bit more instead of such a increased density?
Yes, ma'am. We could have done that, but again, the rent would have to be hiked up, and I don't want to do that on people. So for me, it's either 12 or it's not going to be feasible. So it's really just an effort to make it feasible for as many people as we can, and the price point is the whole deal. Once the price point's not the same, then our competitive edge is gone.
These are 2-bedroom?
2-bedroom, 1 bath, yes, sir. Each side will have 850 living space, square footage.
Going off of what you said, with the possibility of 4, could you bump them up to 3-bedroom and maybe not have quite the variance or the density? I mean, I was just thinking that might, in my mind, that might rationalize an increased rent if you had more bedrooms.
It could. It's just, I don't know, I guess I'm concerned with people that aren't going to be able to afford 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Well, it's very creative, and thank you for bringing it.
Yes,
you know, Tupelo needs this kind of thinking, and anyway, I'm impressed with the plan that you brought, but I would like to see it as 4 instead of 6, personally. All right, any other comments from the committee? Thank you, Mr. Foster. We'll now open the meeting to the public portion of the meeting. If you would, in an orderly fashion, if you just stand up and speak where you are, make sure Mr. Wilson gets your name and address, and then tell us your comments or concerns, please.
I'm going to be nominated to go first. It's Robert Parks. I live at 4861 Enville Road, which is the property that's adjacent to this project. We bought this property as a place to retire, a place with privacy and country living. Before I get into my presentation, let me start apologizing to this group and Miss Jenny for my outburst at the September meeting. But that just shows you how this project affects property owners that had been there for years. I moved to Belden. I worked for municipal government for over 30 years. Started out in community development, went to the engineering department, to building codes and the building official, and completing my career in development services. I am opposed to this project due to the fact this is an RD3 zone, and there's nothing of this project that meets those requirements. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Sammy Green. I have properties at 3570 Belden Pike and 3820 Belden Pike. Very familiar with rental property. And if you listened to Mr. Israel there, he told you the bottom line is it's either 12 houses on 1 acre of land, or it's nothing. It's all about the dollar. I stand opposed to this presentation because he's asking for 3 specific variances. And if there was only 1 variance there, there would be something to consider. But this is having to jump a fence here. Thank you for your time.
My name is Patty Parks. I live at 4861 Enville Road, Dillon. As my husband and I said, we bought this property as an investment property. We spent a lot of our retirement funds on this house to try to bring it up to a more modern design. We worked hard, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into this house. But one of the issues that I have with the fact that he insists that it be this number of units, this property is within less than 300 feet from the railroad track. If any of you have ever been stuck in that traffic when there is a switch train going on, that's the main switch line out there, cars can sit there for as much as 30 minutes. We've timed it. To add another 12 to 24 cars trying to exit or enter that property within that distance, it's ridiculous. I mean, we can't even get out of our driveway at times. People use our driveways and our neighbor's driveway to turn around and go back to Walsh Road, which now is becoming a speed trap through there because people are running late. We've seen ambulances, fire trucks, school buses stop there in the morning, afternoon. They can't get across the track. So this would just add a major mess to the traffic flow that's already there. So for this reason, if one has not already been done, we would ask that before you approve this, that there be a traffic study done. And specifically for those times, in the morning, the afternoon, so that you can see what kind of influence that this would have. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Parker.
I'm Alice Worthy, and I live at 4831 Enville. The property that we're talking about here, my property backs up to this property. My family has had this property that I live at. I'm the 3rd generation that has lived at this property. My family has had this property in our family since the 1800s. So we're not interested in this, and I'm opposed to this plan because this is not the way that our neighborhood is laid out. I appreciate your time.
My name is Enrique Amador. My property is in 3542 Abbey Lane, and I back up everything that other neighbors have said about the traffic. It's going to be increased. We're talking about 12 units, 12 families, probably over 16, 18, 20 cars. In the morning, because there is the school over there is really crowded, around 7:30 to 8:30 or so, and then in the afternoon as well, around 2:30 to 3:30. That's my time.
No, continue. Sorry.
It's not over my time. So I think it's gonna increase the traffic, it's gonna increase families there, and my wondering is, if we have some requirements already set, it was for a purpose. Now we want, or the developer want to change that, that's gonna be a difference. But my main concern is, if we, or as a city, as a community, as a society, set some laws, some standards, it's for a purpose. And I believe we as a smart people, we set those standards for a reason. So now change it, what we are telling the same society, that we some set requirements, but it's changeable. That's my thing. So, but I wouldn't, I'm opposed to the project. Thank you.
So I'm William Hopper. I would stand opposed to it as well. So
What is your address?
you want the P.O. Box 254?
Yeah,
No,
street address.
2780 Walsh Road is where our house is. My wife and I own the 12 acres of farmland that's directly behind the property. When we first heard about this, I reached out to Russ to ask questions about it, and one of the questions Russ asked me was, who would build a house on a lot that close to the railroad tracks? And I said, well, I would. We actually inquired about it to the previous owner, and then I left you, I don't know, I guess at least three voicemails last year about it. Never got a call back. Our original plan, we just moved from Arizona, and our original plan was to build either on the farm or adjacent to it, which is why we inquired about that property. We have a design already done by an architect here in Tupelo. We bought a new house on Walsh Road, so we'd have a place close to the farm, but we plan on farming it. My wife retired, and I was able to move and bring my job with me, so I brought a job to Tupelo with me. So anyway, we stand opposed to it. I have a lot of questions about 25 parking places, I think is what I counted on there. Stormwater runoff. There shouldn't be any of that stormwater runoff back to the farm. There shouldn't be any limitations on our farm because you have 12 residents there. I think it'll forever change the aesthetics of the area, which was part of the draw, one, for my wife to get back to family, because she's part of that third generation Alice was talking about. She's the fourth. So part of that was the reason we moved back, and the other part was the aesthetics. My family's from Tiplersville, Mississippi, so if you know where that is, you get some bonus points. But we spent 18 years in Arizona, and happy to be back in Mississippi, but we do stand opposed to this.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman.
My name is Cindy Ward, 349 Revival Road, Tupelo, Mississippi, 38801. I own property directly behind where all the dirt was dumped. And if I go back to my property, look back, it's just like a mountain. It have brought the value down on my property. I don't know where we can do anything back there. And my son, he wanted to build a house, which used to be a house, on that property. So the value is just probably down to almost nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Aaron Hall, 379 Revolver Road. And I kind of got a history of when Tupelo comes to our neighborhood and try to sell us things, like they was selling us for us to sell, close down our schools. And they told us that we was gonna get bused to Tupelo. So what happened was, only a few of us went to Tupelo, and the majority of us went way to Moore. So, and then on top of that, I remember the lady right here talking about how the morale of the land and stuff about the developing. Let me tell you about the morale I grew up with. Okay, they took our schools, tore it down, and they put an improvement school there. And then on top of that, they put non-stop roadblocks from Enville to Wash, day and night. And I'm gonna tell you how evil those guys were when they was doing this. They were setting up roadblocks right at the time when people on Wash Road were getting out of church. They would do that every Sunday. So now everything done got quiet. The people my age, they don't left. Now it's just the older people. And everything's quiet. Now you want to come and put people we don't know that don't have attachment to our neighborhood that's going to be going in and out, and you talking about low rent. Low rent sounds like to me Section 8. That's code for Section 8. Single mothers, that's code for Section 8. And I have a son, he was here last time we was here, and he opposed to it too. And you know what? That child was, if he lived by that train track and had to go to school, and a train come through at 1 o'clock in the morning, how is that helping him? How would they help that kid? Being woke up by that train. I can hear that train on Revival Road. So I know that'll probably have the windows shaking if you had a house that close. So what I'm saying is I'll oppose to it, because every time the city come to us, you never do anything good for our community. And you can't have us coming over here and saying that, believe in us, this is going to bring the land value up. We know it's not. Grand Oaks, I have a daughter that lives in Grand Oaks, and you can't tell me if that land went up or down, because that's Pontoc County. Grand Oaks is Pontoc. It has nothing to do with the folks across the street. So I never heard anything about our land getting better. You just say it might not get worse. So I'm not willing to gamble that with the past history we have had with Tupelo anyway. So I oppose. And the guy right here, he says that it won't make or break him. So, and he says he's for the people.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
What was your last name? Hall.
Hall.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much for your comments, each and every one of you.
Excuse me. I think it would be important, and I've already spoken once and I don't want to speak again, I mean, there are numerous people here that are opposed to this that haven't said that they're opposed to it. So if I can ask them to raise their hand if they're opposed of it, or you may ask them to raise their hand if they're opposed.
Why don't we hold off on that? I mean, some of these people might have, as per the directions, somebody may have voiced their concern and they didn't stand for that reason. So I'm gonna hold off on that for now. I think we've heard. So I mean, I appreciate that.
Could I say something?
Yes, Paul.
I oppose.
Name and address.
Rita Roper, 182 Bramblewood Circle, Belgium. 182 Bramblewood.
How do you spell it?
BRAMBLEWOOD Circle, Belgium, 30826. I oppose.
I'd like to say something too. Jeff Scott, 3676 Countrywood Road.
3676?
Yes, sir. Countrywood, one word.
Okay, thank you.
I oppose.
How about go ahead. Carol Martin, 5288 Timber Lane Road, Belden.
5288.
Timber Lane Road.
I oppose.
My name is Betty Scott. I live at 3729 Countrywood Road, and I oppose this for several reasons. I won't state tonight, but I do oppose it.
I'm Jerry Baines. I live at 5997 Enville Road.
Say that.
5997 Enville Road,
Okay, thank you.
and I'm opposed.
I'm Joe Scott, I live at 3729 Countrywood Road.
3729.
Right. And I'm opposed.
I'm Julie Caruth, 6659 Enville Road,
That
Belton.
was 6
6659
in
Enville.
Thank you.
I'm opposed.
Lisa Rish, 3643 Countrywood Road, Galvin, and I'm opposed.
What was your last name, ma'am?
Rish, R-I-S-H.
Larry Hall. 49.
49 Revival Road.
Yeah, Revival Road.
49.
349.
349 Revival Road, and I oppose.
I'm Darlene Satterwhite, 5332 Timberlane Road, Belgium, Mississippi.
5332.
Timberlane Road,
And what was your last name?
Satterwhite,
S-A.
T-T-E-R-W-H-I-T-E.
Okay, thank you.
Jurlean, J-U-R-L-E-A-N.
Okay, got it.
And I want to make sure you spell it right.
I might not be able to read it, but I wrote it down. All right.
So do you have an opinion?
Yes. Well, these are all my neighbors. And if my neighbor hurt, then I hurt. If they have to cry, then I have to cry too. And if they start to fall, I want to be right there to catch them, and I oppose.
Okay. All right. Thank you, each and every one. This will now close the public portion of this application, and we are now open for committee discussion.
I'd like to hear Mr. Foster address some of the issues that they brought up.
Any examples, any specific ones you want me to?
Well, the traffic issue was one. We faced that with the apartments that we approved and didn't approve.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm actually curious to that as well. I spoke with Jenny before the first one, and I thought maybe it might be smart to get a study on the traffic, and but we didn't do that, and we should have. That's on me. So to address that, I didn't get that done, and I should have. That's on me. There's nothing else to say to that. But any other ones?
Jenny, is a traffic study required on a project like this?
A traffic study is only required where we anticipate 300 cars or more per peak hour.
That is additional.
Yeah, cars added to, yes.
If the development were adding 300 traffic, what is it, per hour?
Yeah,
Per lane?
per peak hour
Of trips.
of trips, yes, sir.
Yeah. Per hour, then a traffic analysis would be required. But it's not.
Do we currently have any plans to do anything with the road up there?
Definitely repaving, widening roads in that vicinity. That is an annexed area, as you know, and the city is working through addressing roads throughout the city that are in the condition of areas that were annexed.
Mr. Hall mentioned some road, or I'm going to say traffic calming issues that were installed. Is that correct?
I think he was referring to police stops.
Oh, roadblocks.
Roadblocks.
Those were-
Oh, yeah, I
yes.
was talking about roadblocks.
And you may not know, is that area not part of the next major thoroughfare?
It
That
is,
road, it's not on major thoroughfares?
No.
it is not,
Right.
but that, they are working on developing out next phases.
Jenny, is the city looking at any rezoning or anything out there?
So we are conducting our comprehensive plan update now, and our current plan expires in 2025. It is typical that with all comprehensive plan updates that we're looking at where the city has been and where the future of the city will go. And that 100% of the time accompanies development code changes and rezoning of the city.
And is it typical that we see different types of rezoning within a certain proximity of railroad tracks?
Not necessarily of railroad tracks. You see different zoning and proximity of major corridors. The proximity to McCullough here is the most likely influencing factor.
Can I say one more thing? I'd just like to point out that, you know what, I'm just gonna keep that to myself.
Well, I'm curious, how do you feel after you've heard everything tonight?
I mean, I think all the concerns are justified. I mean, if I lived out in the country for a long time and some investor came up in here and said, hey, we should do this, I mean, I would feel the same way. I'm not disagreeing with any of the concerns. I just think that the good that can come out of I already know what their opinions are on the matter, and so I just think that I'm running in circles right now, and there's nothing I could say. There's literally probably not many words I could say that would change their mind on anything. So
That's true.
In the new comprehensive plan, do you suspect that that will be rezoned anyway?
I would take away the anyway, but I do suspect there is some incongruency with typical planning practice to go from a high-density commercial corridor immediately into a low-density residential zone. Most planning practice tells us to ease out of high density with a medium density into lower density. What we've seen here is that in our past rezoning, and especially with annexed areas, there is consideration made to what is being annexed, and often the zones that are put up on those parcels are indicative of what is currently there, not what future development often asks for. As you know, annexed areas, the purpose of annexing is to allow opportunities for growth.
May I just ask one question, and that's just one question.
I think it would be fine. Just-
I don't want to open this back up.
Well, I just wanted to ask one question.
All right,
but
all
I
right,
don't know, that's
just one
okay.
question, please.
The way I see it is this Section 8 housing actually what it's going to be. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
So, where's Scott?
Right here.
I'm listening.
I've been like really quiet, which is,
Well, I think you have to look at it as from not only just this area, but as the whole city in general. And this is LDR. That means low-density residential. That's where you put your larger homes, bigger lots. And we generally want to protect that in the city. And this is more of what would be in a medium-density residential or mixed-use residential. And 64% variance over what would be allowed. If this was 10 or 20, then you could say, well, it's fairly close. But 64% is a lot, and so let's take it to the rest of Tupelo. Then somebody else is gonna say, hey, guess what, we can put 12 duplexes in these other neighborhoods that are supposed to be protected from that. And so, I mean, I hear all of y'all and what you're saying, and especially when you start looking, we always talk about setting a precedent, trying to give one person a little bit, and the next guy's gonna come want that too, and want that. Next thing you know, there's some duplexes popping up all over in residential neighborhoods where they were never meant to be. And so I think 64% is just way out of line compared to. Now, the argument that someone asked about being rezoned, maybe so, maybe it needs to be, but that's not even on the table. If it was, when that's not even coming up yet. So you have to look at it. What is it right now? It's low density residential. This is 64% over what would be allowed there. That's just way too much of a change for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's like Scott said, the pace with which it goes, if it were medium density residential, I think that there has to be a buffer there. I think that if it going from the mixed use corridor to LDR, if there needed to be, there probably should have been a medium density residential buffer between those two.
I think you're right.
In the future,
I agree.
but as it is,
but it's not.
Now, it's not.
But it's not, and we're not here to rezone the
That's
neighborhood.
right. That's right.
We're here to look at this one particular.
But I would add too that I think there's certainly a need for what Mr. Foster's doing in our town. So I don't want you to lose that sight of that at all, because I think that that's certainly needed. But like Scott said, I think the drasticness is too severe. The 64%.
So I always rely on Scott because he usually offers some insight, but I am, for the record, opposed to that 64% in variance. I mean, I think that if we were going to look at increasing density, we need to look at proper rezoning first, and it needs to be a gradual thing, not go from this to all of a sudden 12 duplexes or 12 units. And so I just don't think this is the right place for these units at this time. That's just my opinion. I think that we as Americans, we buy our properties and we move there knowing that it's a certain code, it meets certain requirements, and we don't expect just to be completely taken over and completely do a reverse on what our neighborhoods are like. That's my feeling.
And in case you think I'm not sympathetic, they just tried to put an RV park in my backyard. So yes, I do understand how you feel.
All right, any other comments from the committee?
So do I need to make a motion?
Oh, we got three.
Or do we have three?
Do we have
need
three
to do
different-
this. So if we deny the flex variance, how should we do this? What needs to happen first?
Well, inherently, I think I would start with the flexible use for,
Did you not just tie them all together? I mean, if
any
you develop-
motion could be made at this point. I will say, for the record, toward the idea of approval, we would need 3 separate approvals. But beyond that, whatever motion the committee.
I'll move that we deny the flexible use, the variance, and the major site plan.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in approval, raise your right hand. All against? Let's see. Mark, I didn't see. Did you vote for the denying? Okay, all right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 6 going. Okay, all right.
I I make a motion that we deny the use of duplexes in a low-density area.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, raise your right hand. Again, against, same sign. Okay, motion carries.
Was that 6-1 again?
6-1.
No, I don't think
Did you vote?
Me?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that was 6-1, yeah.
okay.
I thought it was
Yes.
Mark, did you?
Mark.
Well, Mark and I had our hands up at the same time, I think he was voting.
He was coming down, I think he was
Going
going
forward,
up.
just wanted to be sure.
Ship's kind of hard for everybody to
See each other
He was
without the
voting.
curve.
Okay. And I make a motion that we deny the major site plan.
Second.
Motion and a second, all for it, raise your right hand. All against, like sign. 6-1. There we go. Let's see, Jenny, would you tell them what the applicants here next,
Yes, anyone impacted can file an appeal within 3 days of this decision to myself, and that would be an appeal to City Council. City Council will review any appeals of the decision.
Can I make one statement just to Mr. Israel? Just, can I? I applaud you for what you are trying to do. We absolutely, as a city of Tupelo, need affordable housing. And I hope that this will not prevent you from moving forward with some other projects within our community.
yes.
And I'd like to say something too to us, to everyone out here. I know, especially for the people that lives in the county and the city annexes, I don't know how many was annexed the last time versus in the 80s or whatever. And you cannot like the city, I get that. But just think that if the city had not annexed your property, that area, it can do whatever it wants to. I mean, there's no zoning regulations, there's no code enforcement, there's nothing. It's just the Wild West. So, because that was annexed, allows this sort of discourse tonight, and so there is some positives that come from Tupelo coming in. So just wanted to mention that.
Great point. Thank you, Scott.
May I say?
Go ahead.
Just one.
All right, we've got time.
Israel, not only are we opposing it because we are the adjacent property owners and have the investment, but the property that you purchased, my grandparents lived there. I spent a lot of time in that backyard swinging under a big tree, playing in the dirt, rolling tires, sitting on the back porch when my grandmother played a mandolin, because that's country. It's still country. So we aren't opposed to you personally. So I just want you to understand that, like I said earlier, that was an investment for us. Our children are in Knoxville, Tennessee. We came home to help take care of my mother that passed away 2 years ago. So our ultimate plan was to sell this property. So to have had those duplexes out there, our hearts sank. It's like everything we put in this house would be lost. But not only that, when I sit there every day in the backyard and look out there to that lot, I see my grandmother and granddad. So it broke my heart to think that, you know, I'm fine with a house out there. It would be wonderful to have a neighbor out there. But to know that there are 12 units, duplex out there, it was devastating. And I'm sorry. But you know, you were talking about the property was 70 years old. It was. And we had to call the city, I don't know how many times, because of all the drugs that were being sold out there. At one time, there was a shooting out there one time, brother shot brother. So, I mean, we've lived through it all. And we could not have been happier to see the house torn down, because that's not what my grandmother and granddaddy were. So I wish you the best.
I honestly do. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. The city council will review our decisions, and Ms. Sabley will report back their findings at our next meeting. Do we currently have any applications for the next meeting?
There are proposals from the city for text amendments to the development code.
Will you be sending those out
Will
like
be-
way prior?
I will, yeah. I think Pam gave, did Pam give?
Patty did.
Yeah, Patty did.
Yeah.
And I
Okay. Patty did.
I did have someone called today about a cell phone tower off of Gun Club Road. It just never stops. But people have a right to ask for one.
Our next work session will be October 30th. Our next meeting will be November 6th here at the Tupelo CVB. Is there anything else?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I
I have a
second.
motion, second. All in favor, right hand. We are adjourned.